live pop-up session. For those of you that don't know, Nimdzi Insights, we do these live pop-up sessions. We do them as pop-ups. They're not scheduled. They're not announced. They're not marketed because, frankly, it's easier and well, it's easier to get guests, like Josef Kubovsky. I'm at a loss for words. So if in very informal, very loose, we're just going to have a conversation today. But during these live pop-up sessions, we like to talk about something that's going to add a little bit of value for you guys. Not super formal, not anything like a training, but today we are going to be talking about how to select a sales representative. And this is a topic that my colleague here, Josef Kubovsky, has talked about quite a bit at different conferences and different events and has been talking about for quite some time. A quick background and a quick introduction for Josef here is I first met Josef years ago at, I believe, a gala conference in Boston, and it was only a matter of time before I ended up working with him here at Nimdzi. We hired him as our VP of sales several years ago, and so therefore he is the man behind, or one of the men and women behind the rapid growth that Nimdzi has been experiencing over the last couple of years. So if you're interested in knowing how to sell, how to grow a dynamic company like Nimdzi Insights, Josef is your guy. And Josef, did I hit everything? Did I get all the key points on this?
I think you did. Let me start with saying, why are we even talking about this topic? Why did it bring us here? I'd say we do consult on a daily basis many translation companies who have some challenges with actually not only training and managing the salespeople, but also at the first place, hiring them, right? You need to make sure that you have the right team members on your team so that they can work successfully. And where I like to start here is that it is so easy for a salesperson to sell themselves.
Right.
Because actually, there's nothing easier than that.
Right. Well, let's before we get into it though, let me just finish up my obligatory housekeeping here, because we are doing a marathon today. This is kind of the first Nimdzi live streaming marathon. So for those of you that are fans and follow Nimdzi Live or our sister programming, Last Week in Localization with Sarah Hickey, we're going to be doing a lot today. We've got 4 sessions lined up, the first of which is my colleague Josef here. At 11:30 PST, we're going to be talking about translating for inclusive Spanish with Mercedes Montero. At 1 o'clock, we're going to be looking at The Language of Global Marketing, new book by Wendy Pease. Very excited to talk to her. And lastly, but not least, at 2:30, very excited to talk to a gentleman by the name of Brian Beck, who is author of $1 Billion B2B E-commerce. He's going to be talking about market entry strategies around via e-commerce into the U.S. market. So very cool. If that's not a good time zone for you, make sure to check out the recording tomorrow. And once again, these are live. They are pop-up. They're not announced, which means if you're not subscribed to Nimdzi, then you're not going to be notified. So make sure to follow Nimdzi Insights on the platform of your choice so that you're notified when we go live. Okay. I think I got through all the housekeeping, Josef. Let's dive into this, since that's out of the way. So, sales. Talking about hiring salespeople. Go. So, I'm not even going to lead you with a question, because I know you can talk for a while about this.
It's a great question. As I said, what else can the salesperson sell better than themselves, right?
Right. Okay, that's where we were going. And okay, the first sentence I've already interrupted you. But yes, this can be a super frustration for people that have not hired and trained sales teams before. Because I've talked to so many different people, usually like small company owners, and they're not growing, and they don't want to hire salespeople because they say, well, I've done that before. I tried that, and it didn't work. And that always breaks my heart, because I can't help but think that there was something that they were doing wrong, or maybe not even something that they were doing wrong. Maybe they just got the wrong fit, right? Maybe they didn't hire the right team members, or they weren't thinking along those lines, and they're losing out because of it. And
let me add one thing here, Tucker. if you are a strong salesperson, would you rather go somewhere, and pardon me here, would you rather go somewhere small where you don't have too much of a large opportunity? Would you rather start with a small company that really cannot make such an impact? Or would you rather go somewhere where you can bring a large client, make a lot of revenue, and by closing one or two deals, you can basically, end up your entire year, but building a strategy up, upselling with them and stuff like that. I think this is the first thing we need to consider, right? When we are in a position of a small or mid-size organization, how do we attract those interesting salespeople?
Well, and that's a very good point, right? And to answer your rhetorical question, if I'm a salesperson, I'm going to go where I can make the most money, right? Which means I'm going to go to the company that's got the best reputation, the best customer base, the people where the product is so great that it's just selling like hotcakes, and I can just cash my check, right? Because it sells itself. So that's the answer to your question. And it brings up a really interesting point. When I introed you, I mentioned that we had met several years ago, but it was years before we hired you, between the time when I met and when we started working together, and even longer if you take into account how long you and Renato, my business partner at Nimdzi, have known each other. And frankly, I know why, because I guarantee you, I don't know, I wasn't there, but I'm guessing Renato probably tried to poach you and bring you on board at Nimdzi well before you actually came on board. And let's be honest, when Nimdzi first started out, we weren't that impressive. It was a risky endeavor for people to come work for
Indeed,
us, right?
indeed,
So
indeed.
the first thing that your first point here, before we even get into the slides, is be a company that people want to work for, right? Am I capturing that correctly, or?
You are indeed. You are indeed. And the second point is, do we really need all those very senior salespeople that we think that will have all the connections and will be coming in, and will just, in 6 months' time, we will be doubling our revenues and we will get the biggest customers we ever dreamed about? Or do we actually want to consider a strategy? We want to decide on who are the right people to approach, and how do we position ourselves? And those salespeople that maybe not so senior but have a great potential will come and follow us, just like Mr. Javier Diaz Fernandez Carvanal, who has commented here quickly,
I have
and who
a
has been the junior salespeople that I onboarded back at MemSource. And he turned out to be a fantastic networker, and he could simply help us with opening doors that we haven't dreamed of, right? So there is a strategy you need to consider. You need to decide which direction you want to go, and the people follow. And those who like the strategy, those who like the way you present yourself, will follow.
So we have. I totally agree. Let's get into the slides here, just because I'm dying to see how badly I screwed up these slides when I was formatting them. Um, all right, this is just intro to you. I
Yeah.
apologize. Why do we need sales? I'm a little behind the curve this morning. Let's start
So
here. Let's start
yeah.
here
So
because
what's your
before
personal
I
experience
want
here?
to I wanted to start here because if we jump right in to talking about the challenges of how to hire salespeople, then I fear we're going to lose the people that need to hear what you have to say, because one of the biggest struggles that I find just talking to company owners that want to grow is convincing them that sales is necessary in the first place. Particularly,
Mhm.
specifically when I'm talking to the LSP owners outside of the United States. And I think a lot of times it's just because it's a big investment to invest into sales, particularly in the U.S. market. So let's talk about, why do we need sales? Is it possible
Yeah,
to grow your business without sales?
it is indeed. But the question is, what is your major focus, and can you constantly grow? If because in most of these, and there's no doubts, right? You can look at all the Nimdzi research that obviously the biggest amount of companies that are out there are actually the smallest one, right? Of 3 to 5 people. Easy as that. But if you have a 3 to 5 people, you will most probably be the best salesperson, if not the only salesperson, as a CEO.
Right.
What are the other activities you need to focus? Are you actually able to do anything else? And are you able to expand the business if you are the only one who's driving it? So I think
And we see that a
the
lot with founder CEOs. Is I've talked to a lot of founder CEOs that like to say that they are not sales. They do not have salespeople. They do not have a sales team. And I've talked to founder CEOs that are kind of proud of that, as if that, that's an accomplishment. Like, we've
yeah,
grown to where we're at today without any sales. And
yeah.
and I suppose it is an
Yes.
accomplishment, but I prefer, you know, pieces of paper with numbers written on it that I can take to the bank over accomplishments, right? Like, I'd rather grow fit quick with sales than, just
Well, let me say this. I think it is an accomplishment. The question is, where do you go next, right?
fair
Are we
enough.
fine with
Fair enough.
this?
Yeah.
Which most of the CEOs are actually fine, because what changes if we grow? I will still have more pressure, more stress, and things like that. Well, look at it this way: if you have 50 customers and there's a COVID coming in, and you lose 30 of them, you will end up with 20, right? Do you have a strategy? Do you have a backup with those? And this is the most important reason for the CEOs to consider, in my opinion. You managed to win an interesting account. Did you manage to upsell to
Right.
that account? Did you manage to do the proper sales job by going around of all the other departments? Did you talk with all of the other stakeholders within the same organization, which we may say is the easiest sale, but it's not, right? Because we
Hmm.
need to sell again.
Well,
The only advantage that we have here is the reference,
yeah.
but it's the biggest advantage at the same time. So that's where, if you look at all the mid-sized or small translation companies, you're going to see that every single one of them will have at least one or two large clients, but they're doing very little work for them. Why? Because they don't have the methodology over the right sales and using the upsell ways how you can actually go and get more business out of those customers.
Hmm. And that's another good point. Maybe out of scope of today's conversation, but a lot of times people will come to Nimdzi and ask for sales training, right? And it's like, I want a workshop on sales. I want to level
Mhm.
up my sales team. I want to get them trained up on a specific methodology, whatever it may be. And that's all well and good, but I always like to stop if I'm in that conversation. I always like to stop that discussion and say, "Wait a second. Let's talk a little bit about what your project managers are doing. Let's talk a little bit about the account management function. Let's talk a little bit about how you can take your existing resources, your existing team members, and level them up in a way where they are actually helping to fulfill that sales core function rather than just doing their job." Sales is not the only way to grow your company. There are many, many other ways to grow your company, but it can be one of the best ones, right? It can be a quick one. The companies that grow the fastest are the companies that invest most in sales. Like, period. That's it's pretty much a generally accepted principle. Speaking of, I'm talking about project managers. Perhaps that's a good segue into this conversation about sales being a process. And I talk about this quite a bit because I work with PM teams and operations team and like to talk about sales in a context that they can appreciate and understand. And one way that's really good for operation minded people, whether they're project managers or founder owners of LSPs, certain people are process oriented, operations oriented. It's useful for people like us to think of sales as a process because it is. It's not magic. There's nothing secret about it. It's a process that we can follow. Talk to me about that a little bit. Some of the methodologies. What are the methodologies that you've used in your career?
So I would start with what is the profile of the salesperson? Like, if I have a single salesperson, do I need a process? Do I need the methodology? And do I need to pick a methodology,
Good
right?
question.
I think the most important thing here is to match the profile or the profiles of your team members and match them with the right setup. Who and how do you actually process with it?
Okay.
At the same time, if you don't have a single salesperson, but you have two, and now a task for you, Tucker, who are these salespeople that you have on the team? If there's just one, there's never one. There's always the CEO
Yeah.
and the salesperson, right? So you're always going to have at least two. You need the methodology. Why is that? Because you want to
Well,
know.
I'd
Because when
argue
you,
you'd have more than just two, right? Everybody, and I know this has been said so much it's become a cliche, but sales and growth is the responsibility of everybody on the team. And I make a strong argument that project managers, particularly if they're client-facing project managers, are doing sales. They are, even if it's not in their job description, they are certainly doing sales. So you have all of these different people on the team, and I think it's dangerous to think of your sales team as the only people responsible for sales.
yeah, indeed. So basically, you need a methodology there to know to balance the different stages where we are so that the entire team knows that if we are at a certain stage with this particular customer, we need to be ready for it,
Okay.
right? That's where you look at, and we at Nimdzi definitely prefer the Flannery cell system methodology, where we actually are all integrated through all the organization, and we understand if someone is interested in our services, we see their challenges and we see an opportunity for us, and how do we go about it, right?
Hmm.
So we talk about how can a client overcome their challenge with our support. So we like that, but there are many other setups, just like the challenger sale. So you need to go to your client and say, what if you don't need our services, but what if tomorrow you wake up and there's going to be no car in front of your door? How are you going to get to your work, right? So that's why you need to have an Uber license, right? So you can quickly jump, or account, sorry. You need to quickly jump into a car if there's no taxis, and you need to get to the office somehow. So kind of challenging the customer to realize that there might be a situation to overcome those. So overcoming or combining those different methodologies, and figuring out what matches the best with you and with your team is the best way to go about it, right?
So you would
I would say,
prioritize like cultural fit of the sales methodologies. So like look at your team and figure out like who are they, what are they all about, what makes them tick, and then pick a sales methodology based upon that. Is that what you're saying?
I would say it's on the profile of the salesperson, whether or the salespeople, whether they are more hunters or they are more kind of, if they're talking technology, whether they're more focused on the solutions, how does it work, and explaining, there. For example, you have a strong inbound sales, and you are basically doing this um, management of the setup or helping the customer how to go about the system, right?
Hmm.
You're not hunting so much.
I see. I see.
But what I want to go here is, and I'll skip the second point, I'll go to the third one directly, is that we all feel like we need to hire salespeople that are from our industry.
Yeah,
It's
let's talk
not
about
true,
that.
right?
Okay.
It's not true because honestly, our industry is not that difficult. What is difficult is
Blasphemy.
everything. Was
Blasphemy.
that?
Our blasphemy. Our industry is unique and a special snowflake, and it is impossible for anybody to understand the challenges that we face.
Yeah,
Sorry,
but
you told me
do
to
you?
play devil's advocate.
Well, yeah,
I've
but
heard these arguments though before. Maybe not that dramatic, maybe not that hyperbolic, right? But I've heard these arguments that salespeople should. Well, let me do this. Let me play devil's advocate here. I'll make an argument that if you're an LSP and you're looking to onboard and hire a sales team, it's important to hire salespeople that are familiar with the services that you're selling and familiar with the industry that you're in. Why? Because oftentimes, not oftentimes, like all the time, your salespeople are going to be the ones creating the first impression for your customers. Like the first contact your customers will ever have or have ever had with your company is typically through a salesperson doing the outreach. And if that
right.
person gives the impression that they do not know what they're talking about, then, well, You know,
Maybe-
it can ruin some trust before that relationship has even got started, especially because we don't sell products. We don't sell tools, right? We sell trust. We sell a service. We sell a relationship I'm talking about LSPs, language service providers, right? So that's my
Yes.
argument for
Okay. Okay.
against
I
you.
don't agree.
Go.
And let me tell you why.
All right.
No, just kidding. Just kidding, of course. Look, the point is, we 80% of the clients do not want to see what we actually do behind the scenes. They just want to get the product completed
Mm,
and they want to know that we're capable of delivering their goals, right? So that they manage to accomplish whatever they were looking for, that we help them with overcoming the challenges that they're looking at. So I would say that much more important than knowing our industry for the salespeople is actually important for them to understand the client's profile, to understand what's going on within their organization. What's the structure? If I'm working with a life science company and I need to be doing translations of the content that they're producing, I need to understand who are the different stakeholders of my client. What does it mean that they need this or that type of content? So I have seen very successful salespeople that actually came from that industry and had a good understanding, because they're not going to project manage the cases. They will
sure.
learn from the project manager. And sometimes I even put back when I was working in translation companies, I would even put the salespeople for 1 week to do the project management, or shadow the project managers to get the understanding. But
Sure.
once again, sorry, Tucker, it's not that difficult,
Okay.
right? We're not selling. We're not. Doesn't matter. I'll skip
Well,
that part.
I
Next one,
think
please.
I think my feelings, my thoughts on this are very much informed by the fact that I founded Nimdzi Insights. Like, we're not a language service provider. We don't provide translations. We literally provide expertise, right? Like, we literally provide. So it's like, if someone, a representative from Nimdzi, doesn't know exactly what they're talking about, then that doesn't bode well, because but we're not selling translations, we're selling ourselves, right? So maybe that's
Right.
why I have that perception, but it's it applies.
And I like the point here, or the comment by Paul,
Yeah, I
that
was going to say, let's get to the comments here. I'm neglecting the comments.
yeah, I
I
think this
muted
one is
them because
great.
Javi was
It's
spamming us. Hi Javi, love you.
it's
Besitos.
not yeah, it's not about it's about the ability, right? Whether the salesperson is able to actually go and build the relationship, and as you say, uh, people buy from people they like. That's the most important thing, right? That's where you want to make sure that you're feeling comfortable about it. It's not, you're not going to force anyone to spend money, even if you're bringing the best product on the earth and they don't like you. They're not going to buy from you.
Okay,
Simple as that,
fair enough.
right? So it's all about building relationship. And then, and I'm just jumping far too much ahead, is we, you and I know from, because I was reporting to you for a bit, um, we don't care how much did the salespeople close in the past. We want to
Mm-mm.
know what is it that what are the opportunities that are on the table? What are they going to bring in a couple of months, right? So back to Paul's comment here, I want to make sure that the salespeople have as many relationships as possible. And then and we can talk about it later or next time, is how do you measure, how do you track those, that success, or the discussions that they're having with the potential clients. But this is what you want to be looking at the first place, right? And
Right.
again, I'm jumping too far ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the comment, Paul. uh for those of you listening, we're looking at the comments here on screen. I'll read them out loud. Paul Barlow comments, I have hired many both from within and outside of our industry, meaning the localization industry, and some succeeded and some failed. Sounds about right. I think it comes down to one, the salesperson's ability, and two, the support we give them to set them up for success. And
Right.
so, agree. A salesperson's ability. I do believe some people are just naturally uh, not better salespeople, but some people naturally have the skills that help them be better salespeople. It doesn't mean everybody can't become one. It just means, anyways, I digress.
And
Go.
And it's necessary to support them not only with the with understanding the product, but also with the methodology. Because if you find a
Yeah.
great salesperson and you provide them with the training or with the right methodology, they will become the best possible,
What's easier to
right? So
train? Is it easier to train new salespeople on product or methodologies?
um, uh,
Depends.
I don't think there is an answer to this,
Yeah.
honestly, because
It's the
it's
same.
on every individual,
Hey,
right?
we're
If we go
consultants. We're
back,
consultants at
if we
Nimdzi.
go
The answer
back
is
to what we
always
said earlier,
depends.
if we go back to what we said earlier, that you have to profile your organization in a way so that you attract these interesting people,
Sure.
they will probably have an interest in what you're offering, right?
Makes
So they
sense.
should have some connection to your product. So it shouldn't be difficult on any of those ends. But I will just mention one comment and I'll answer to Javier's question. Um, if you're hiring salespeople, you got to make sure that they talk about either a process or either a sex about not sex, but about the success story
Yeah.
that they managed to provide previously. And the ideal scenario is that where they're describing it through the process, through the methodology. Why did I do
I
this?
see. I
Why did I
see.
take that action? So that you understand that there's actually something behind it. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a
So
process
you make
that
them
they
show their
thought
work,
about,
right?
actually that they actually converted. I laugh when people say that the sales is uh, that sales is actually how do you call it in English?
Magic.
Nah, that's true.
A horrible career choice.
Yeah, that's true.
Obscene.
No,
Not
no.
as good as
It,
project management. I could keep going. Sales
so
is
it's science.
sales
So
is
sales
oh,
is
okay.
science.
Sales is
It's
science.
not. Obviously, it's not. But you just need to follow certain type of rules.
There,
There are multiple ways how or multiple paths that you will have to follow. But the more you follow them, the more success you can deliver.
yeah,
Right. So
I see why people
that's
say
the
that though.
question I definitely would ask them.
Yeah, but I see why people say that. I see why people would say sales is a science, and I can respect that. I can say there is like a science. There is a science to sales, is what I would say. I wouldn't say sales is a science. So there's your
Mm-hmm.
nuanced English, nitpicking right there. But I mean, there are scientific aspects to it. It's not just an art. It is not just a science. It is a both, depending upon the situation.
Indeed, indeed. I will answer Javier's question here, although it's not connected
Yeah.
to
Here,
how
let
to
me
hire
read it really
salespeople.
quickly for our listeners here.
Yeah.
Javier Diaz Fernando Carvajal. Hope I got that right, Javi. Quick question. Considering that buyers in the loc industry have very long buying cycles and most of them are reluctant to change vendors often, is there any quote unquote secret formula you'd apply to shorten sales cycles or create more engagement to make them want to buy more? Go. Good question, Javi.
You are never going to convince anyone to buy less or more.
Mm,
There's no magic. You cannot shorten a sales cycle if the person is not convinced that they want to buy more from you. What you need to do is you analyze the situation and you get as many insights about where they are and what are the possibilities for them to actually even consider. What you can do by shortening the sales cycle is to identify what other challenges that are they facing that you help them to overcome. And if you help them overcoming these challenges, of course they will be willing to buy from you the soonest they will be allowed, available, or ready to buy more from you, right? So talk about the challenges, try to give them more, but not push for more. Try to understand what else do they need, make a relationship, strengthen the relationship, and through that, try to offer more.
I have nothing to add to that. I think you covered the key points here. So,
Thank you.
what sales profile do I need?
Yeah.
Because we were kind of getting into this already, and I want to comment here. I'll just say, because you mentioned either on this slide or maybe the previous slide, we're talking about the role of solutions architects, project managers, all of that stuff. And as a project manager, slash quote unquote sales support person, I have closed a lot of deals. I have made a lot of money for a lot of salespeople. That's the joke, not that much money. But that's the joke that I like to say. Because at the end of the day, I'd walk away and I don't get a commission check, and that salesperson would get a commission check. And hey, just being real here, I've I've won considerable deals, and where the salesperson would walk away, cash their commission check, and move on to the next one, where frankly, the smartest thing that salesperson did in the whole sales process was invite production to the meeting, right? Like
Mm,
they
mm.
didn't do much. Now, that is my blindfolded. Since then, my eyes have been open a little bit, but that's kind of the perception that I used to have of sales is like, they're just, all they do is set meetings and stuff like that.
I have this conversation very often with the LSP CEOs, honestly.
Hmm.
Like, should we give a commission to the project managers for helping or for closing a deal or for kind of moving forward? The answer is simple, Tucker. Back then, would this be a big motivation for you to do the next one better? Or are you kind of like going and visiting the client or getting a commission, getting money for it? Or what would be, the biggest kind of thank you? What would motivate you the most back then?
Back then, I don't know. I was just a disgruntled, resentful shell of a human being back then. So, I'm not saying like these arguments have merit. It's just saying if I've thought those thoughts before, I guarantee you there's other people out there that have had
Mm,
similar
mm,
thoughts, right? And I think it's an ego thing, right? And I say all the time, ego's not your amigo. Get pride out of the equation. And moment of weakness, I would get resentful and jealous of salespeople. Let's call a spade a spade. That's what it was, right? Even though
indeed.
that
Yeah.
explanation doesn't
Yeah.
make me look very, very good. But how do you? And today I agree. The salesperson closes the deal, give them right the commission check, right? Because even if that project manager or even if that solution architect, their expertise is what helped close that deal. Well, guess what? The salesperson is the one that made it happen. Nothing happens if nothing happens.
The way that I look at it is that the project manager or the solution architect shouldn't be motivated by getting a bonus from that particular deal. They should be getting a, either a bonus or anything else for actually being able to deliver all of those different projects. Because honestly, it's not their mistake or error if the deal wasn't closed. They did the best possible, and that's what we need to measure with them,
Mm.
right? We should be looking whether they did really follow all the either processes or everything. And then there's a conversation whether on top of it, they should get a commission from that deal. I'm not saying they shouldn't,
Yeah, yeah.
but I think what we should measure with them is something different than whether they close this particular deal, because that's not the goal, right? We want the project managers to project manage and also invent or come up with new solutions, not for that particular customer, but for our organization.
Yeah, and that's the flip side that I would never think of, and I didn't even say it today, is as a project manager, I had a nice little base salary, right? I had security. I had a cushy office, and I didn't have to travel 50% of the time. I could plan my finances because I knew what my income was. So there are definitely trade-offs. And frankly, Renato was the person years and years and years ago who tried to convince me to go into sales, and I said, heck no, right? Like I don't want to do that. And nowadays I'm one of the most salesy people I know, for better or worse. Let's get into the comments here because we got people
Yeah, yeah.
chatter happening. Uh, Connor Power. Well, first of all, Belen. Hi, Belen. A great conversation, guys. We got to have a. All right, Connor Power writes thoughts on measuring performance of sales team slash individual. Sales has the reputation of cutting performers who are not up to their numbers. Seems like a brutal way of managing things. Is this really the norm? It doesn't seem like a good way to build a long lasting team that's all in for the company. There's a lot to unpack here. Uh, Joseph, you want to respond to this?
Yeah, and look, I in my previous job, I had 27 people reporting to me. I don't think that a single one of them had a fear of like, oh, I didn't meet my quota last month or last quarter. I'm fired now. So um, the thing is, I definitely, and as we said earlier, what you need to measure is not what has happened, but what's happening today. Looking at their pipeline, looking at what is it that they have on their table today, right? Because whether they did manage to close the deal or they're going to close it in the following month, that's the that's the game of the salespeople kind of
Right.
saying, oh, it didn't happen this month, but it's definitely going to happen next month, right? So there, the most important thing is to again have the methodology where you obviously going to get the insights about whether they are looking at the proper insights, whether they are presenting you the exact challenges that the customers are facing that you have a solution to. And once you have that, there's no doubt about either losing or winning that deal,
Mm.
right? If you have it connected to the deadline, if you have by when do I need to go about this challenge? So don't look at the numbers that they have delivered. Do if they're being for too long and they're still not delivering and they're over promising. But most importantly, look at the pipeline and get a proper methodology about how do you track the pipeline.
Makes sense. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about because here at Nimdzi, I'm not a classically trained salesperson. I've taken some of the courses, but we have SDRs now at Nimdzi, and this is new to me. I've never worked with an SDR model. Can you tell us a little bit about? And hey, if there's any of our new SDRs watching, hello. What is an SDR? What does it stand for? What do they do? How do they interact with the sales team? Talk to us a little bit about that. And
Yeah.
in the comments
So
too, if you guys have experience working with an SDR model or any feedback on that, let us know in the comments.
sure, sure. So the sales representatives are actually here to help opening up new opportunities. They are here to find out
First of all,
the
first of all,
challenges.
how many did we hire? Right? Let's talk about that first. Like, why did you how many? Four,
I
five?
wouldn't want to steal the it's Inge, first of all, our head of sales or VP of consulting,
Uh-huh.
who hired all of them. I had the luxury of being allowed to help her with picking up some and having the conversations with some of them, but it was her who picked these guys. We have hired uh,
If you don't
now
know the
6
answer to
of
the
them.
question, just let me know, Joseph. It's fine.
Was
I
that?
say if you don't know the answer to the question, it's
I
fine. Just
do,
let me
I
know.
do, I do. I was going to say we have five now.
Uh-huh.
Fifth is starting either next week or the week after, um, and we actually started with five, out of which four we kept. Um, I don't like this saying, but it's definitely something to consider, and that's hire fast, fire faster,
Yep.
right? Especially with the salespeople. So
And
what we did,
let me provide a little bit of commentary on that really quickly because this is something that, and this is why I wanted to bring this up because it relates to Connor's question here about, he says, it seems like a brutal way of managing things. And frankly, like I kind of agree. I kind of agree. Sales is cutthroat. If you can't cut it in sales, I'm sure there's a marketing team hiring somewhere. If you can't cut it in marketing, I'm sure there's a teaching gig somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Is all those old jokes that are half truths, if not full truths. But we've always told our consulting clients hire quick when it comes to sales. Anyways, hire quick and fire faster, meaning get an impression if people aren't doing the deal, if they're not following the directions, if they're not doing the process, then cut that investment so that you can go on to hire more. And in key to this strategy though is if you're going to hire three, hire four, hire five, don't hire one. Because if you hire one salesperson and it takes you 6 months to realize that they're not going to work out, now you've lost 6 months. 6 months that your company is not growing, 6 months that you're not forging new relationships with new customers, and all of that stuff. And yeah, it's cutthroat. But one thing that I've learned is that unhappy, underperforming salespeople, it's a miserable existence, right? Like you
Mhm.
are not doing sales. Salespeople want to make money. Salespeople want to thrive. Salespeople want to do great things, just like the rest of us. The longer that you keep them on a team where they're not able to do those things, then the more damaging it is to everybody involved. So it's not just a matter of like, get them off the payroll. They're worthless. No, they're not worthless. It's just sometimes not a good fit. Right.
So we have agreed, Tucker, that I'm going to record another Nimdzi learning or e-learning course, right,
Ooh.
on how to hire salespeople and what are the things to keep in mind. Let me just mention a couple of points here. What you're saying is time essentially, right? How much time do we need to dedicate to preparing for who's the right person, for creating the profile, and how much time do we need to dedicate to training them and then waiting for when are they finally bringing in the data?
No, yeah,
So
that's the main question, right? That's the burning question. And I have a feeling you're going to talk about that one last. But basically, it's like how long is long enough for me to say this person's great or this person needs
right,
to go?
right.
Right.
So you got to get the sense right at the beginning during the training, right? If you're experienced, you're going to sense whether this person is actually going to be a good salesperson or not. If you are not, and you just want to see the performance, you definitely need to see, if I just say it straight, after 1 month, there has to be at least a couple of conversations that the salespeople are bringing you to. So if you are a CEO of a small or
Okay.
mid-sized translation company, they should be either setting up meetings for you or for anyone on the senior team to shadow them during these meetings.
Okay.
But this is the first thing you want to track.
So at this
There's
point,
a
they're not even
certain,
selling. They're just setting up meetings,
they're
right?
just setting up
And
meetings,
that's why
right?
I don't think we ever closed the loop on that question. What is an SDR? And that's my understanding is an SDR is basically someone who's setting meetings. They're not responsible for closing deals. They're cold calling. They're doing outreach. They're building relationships. And then once that relationship is warm, bringing in a senior sales lead.
Uh, well,
Not to
yes and
not.
no,
I don't want
because
to distract from where we're going
yes and
here.
no, because after obviously after some time, a couple of months, they need to be capable of having the business conversations themselves,
Mm,
and they should be capable of closing those deals as well, right? It's going to be the more experienced you are, the bigger and the more complicated deals you're going to be able to close. But um, you start slow, right? You first wait for them to have those conversations. And then, of course, many of those conversations will not be relevant because they're going to get to know who are the right clients and what do we actually want to offer them. And they will misunderstand the offering sometimes. But the second month, you got to have a higher proportion of those meetings that are very relevant,
okay.
right? If that's not happening, you don't have the right salesperson.
Okay. And
Third
this
month,
so this is all this is first month, second month now. Now we're going into the third month. Okay.
yes. So during the third month, they already need to be capable of having some reasonable conversation with the client and basically bringing those challenges of the clients to you. So you don't have to be actively involved in the conversations, basically be helping them to answer the client, okay, this would be a solution that we could help the client with, right?
Okay.
And this is going to take some time before they kind of get into it and stuff like
So
that.
this whole time
I
there's
want the salespeople after at least 4 months to start a couple of deals, to have a couple of serious conversations. Doesn't matter if I was on the in the meeting with them or whether they did those meetings themselves. But I want them to have a certain pipeline already, right? The
mhm.
pipeline should be created ideally after the second or third month, because some of the meetings they selected for me, as we said, during the second month. Where's the here? Um, Already have to be reasonable. So that's already a conversation that will be added to the pipeline. But after 6 months, I want them to have a good pipeline that will show me that in 12 months from now, they will be covering at least the cost that they are costing me and they cost me so far.
Mm,
So
okay.
because the magic number for salespeople and for sales managers is 12 months. After 12 months, Sorry, where's the camera?
12.
Here.
There it is. 12. 12.
So
There we
12
go.
months, the magic number for sales managers is after 12 months, you have to have a full pipeline, you have to have a good amount of deals closed, and that's where you move on. So most of the people, if I present this, typically start asking me, but am I going to be spending money on them for 12 months and only afterwards is going to come? Indeed.
Yeah.
You got to be planning your investment for next 12 months.
It's business.
But the thing is that you're going to find out after 2 or 3 months whether there is something going to happen 9 months later.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you do that? Like I'll tell you how I do it is how we do it here at Nimdzi, and then I'll let you comment. Is you don't look at the results during those first 1, 2, 3, 6 months. You don't look just at the results, and by results I mean how many deals have you closed. You look at the activities, right? You look at what are the activities these salespeople are doing, and this is why it's important to, going back to our previous slides and conversation, it's important to have a process, and it's important that, especially if you have a team working together, it's important that you have an agreed upon process with agreed upon steps and milestones and all of these things, so that you can measure those activities. Because if you can't measure the activities, then you can't provide any constructive feedback to your sales team. All you know is how much money have they made me and how much money have they cost me, right? And looking at that equation in isolation, take it from a company owner. I am a company owner. I have hired salespeople. Looking at that number is dangerous. There be dragons, right? Like it will set you down a rabbit hole spiraling downwards of thinking, why am I paying these salespeople, right? Don't do it. I'm telling you, don't look at that number in isolation. It's an important data point, but you also need to take it and look at it within the context of what are the activities my sales team are working on? Are these in alignment with the agreed upon sales process that we're working? And have faith. Have faith, right? If you have a process, processes are faith-based systems, right? When you're following a sales process, you have faith that if I do X, then I will get Y, right? So give the process time to work. That's my spiel.
I think there are, we can figure out these things quite early, right? So having the right profile, having the right job description, we have enough candidates, right? If there's less than 100 reactions to my job post, there's something wrong, right? If I'm interviewing and I'm interviewing less than 10 salespeople, it's not going to work out. Even if there's 2 that are fantastic, I will not understand who's the best match for me. And if you go back to the e-learning course, you're going to learn that don't hire someone that you like, but that your customers like. But at the same time, you're going to work with them. You're going to be the one who's going to be managing them, right? So there has to be a good balance about those. Where I really have a good experience in is actually testing them prior to the first conversation, giving them a task, giving them a description, letting them record a video. And once again, don't want to go too much into the detail, but this is where you can screen the 100 people by quickly running through the videos without actually spending too much of your time and their time, right? Because they want to know whether it's worth attending a meeting or not, right?
That's
and when you go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's what we forget. Like when you're interviewing a salesperson, you better damn well believe that they're interviewing you, right? And frankly, you don't want to hire, if they're not interviewing you, then you don't want to hire them. There's not a good fit for your sales team, right? So salespeople, the best salespeople have options. Let's put it that way. And the really best salespeople know they have options and create those options proactively for themselves.
That reminds me when you brought me to Seattle and you said, Joseph, we are considering you to start with us. And at some point you returned to Renato and you told him, why do I feel like I'm being interviewed here?
Well, okay, let me provide some context for that story. Is because you were being interviewed, but you were also talking to several other well-respected organizations, companies, people in the industry. You had options, and you knew you had options. And yeah, you'd better damn well believe that we flew you out to Seattle. First class, by the way. right? And
Indeed.
years later, here we are. And I would give the same advice to anybody who is wooing. I mean, right now there's some interesting folks on the market with different things that are happening in the market. There's some interesting like senior salespeople and mid all sorts of people out there. And yeah,
Tucker,
yes.
I would let me just say a couple of words here regarding the interview because I think that's a critical moment we
Let's
actually
do
where
that.
we actually want to make sure that we're speaking with the person and we're not alone in it. So, two things that I would like to mention here. If you run in an interview and you went through the previous stages, right? Where we said already that it's not the first thing
Hmm.
you know about them. You saw a short recording of a video or recording of a call,
Sure.
or you gave them a test or whatsoever. But then you already know that this person is worth speaking with. So don't be the only one there. And if you have doubts, then go back and get and think about it. Don't forget those things. It is critically important because the same doubts you have, the clients will have as well.
Sure.
So I think this is one of the things that people like. Yeah, but I like him better than the other candidate. Well, are you sure that this is the right one? If it's not, mm, at least get someone who can help you out. And by the way, this is what we do for our clients as well. We sit at some of the interviews with them to help them out whether these are the right matches, right? Because it's not whether this is a good salesperson; it's also about whether this is a good match for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, sorry, Tucker.
No, no, that's just fine. And hey, I'm just looking at the clock here, and geez, time flies. We've been doing this for 50 minutes, and like I don't know about you, but I kind of was thinking how this would go down today as we'd come in and we'd go over these slides, and it would be this nice organized thing. I don't know why I would think that, but we hardly got through any of these slides today. Whoops. Let's get through the questions because I am talking to someone else in 20 minutes, and I need to go get them already here. Um, Quick, Paul has another question here, and let's see here. Okay, Paul Barlow again. Quick question on pipeline, Joseph. Do you expect the new salespeople to do their own lead generation, or should the company slash organization support them and feed them leads? Damn, Paul, with the good questions today. That's a juicy one.
Yeah. So can you share the
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the second one here on the screen. So
so
do you expect them to do their own lead? Are new salespeople supposed to bring their own leads? That's the question.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So you
Next
need to
question.
start from scratch. You need to get started somewhere. You need to show that you managed to open an opportunity. But, and that's why we said you need to be first, you need to plan who you want to hire. Who are these people? What's the profile? So, in other words, if you're hiring a senior salesperson for upsell, obviously not, right? But if it's the hunter, if it's someone who's kind of getting started with the company, yes, they need to go
Hmm.
through this exercise because they need to learn what do people respond positively versus negatively to our offering. I hope that helps, Paul. If not, ping me a message.
Yeah, I couldn't have done it. And last but not least here, I think this is a great one to go out on. Javi, I have to admit that working with Joseph as my supervisor for 3.5 years has been a positive life changer. I learned so many interesting things about sales. Obviously, you didn't learn how to spell learned. Became more, sorry, Javi. Became more strategic and won very interesting deals with big buyers. Thank you, Joseph. You're a true inspiration. I wouldn't be where I am without you having trusted and insisted in me. Thank you very much. Aw.
Thank you, Javier. There is no other reaction to this one than go sell.
Go sell. And with that, I think that is as good a point as any for us to start winding this up here today. Joseph, I want, you were talking about your new Nimdzi Learning course. This is your chance. Give us a shameless plug on the Nimdzi Learning. What is it? Who's it for? What are we doing? What's your new course? Go.
So, Nimdzi Learning is a training place for anyone who has anything to do with the language service industry. You can be experienced, senior, you could be junior, you could be new to our industry, but you're going to get a lot of insights, whether you are a project manager and learn from Tucker, whether you're a salesperson and learn from us, whether you are a localization manager or learn from our great expert Miguel, who also works on the buyer side, and get tons of insight about this. You just go to the Nimdzi website, you sign up, you can try the first courses for free or for lessons for free, and then reach out to us to figure out a way how you get more access to the rest of it. All Nimdzi partners and members have full access to all of the courses that we have out there. And we have published amazing courses. Belen, who's VP of Learning at Nimdzi Insights, is putting together a fantastic plan for the rest of the year, for this year. And I have agreed with her after seeing this presentation that we put together with Tucker about how to hire salespeople, that we're going to put together a course on this, where I will speak about more details on these particular steps, whether that being preparation, tasks before you interviewing them, getting references, how should you ask for a referral, and things like that.
Beautiful. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much, Joseph. So essentially, guys, this has just been a practice run for Joseph's upcoming e-learning course that he's doing. And thank you for coming and doing your practice run with me today, Joseph. Let's close it up here, guys. For those of you that joined about halfway through, once again, my name is Tucker Johnson, and this has been Nimdzi Live, a pop-up podcast from Nimdzi Insights, where we talk about, well, whatever topics the wind blows our way. Today we are doing a what I have branded the accidental pop-up marathon, because I got scheduled with 4 sessions today. We just finished with Joseph. Join us in about 20 minutes. We're going to be talking to Mercedes Montero about inclusive Spanish translation. We're going to be talking to Wendy Pease at 1 o'clock, and at 2:30 we are going to be talking with Brian Beck about entering the U.S. market and doing global e-commerce, and once again, wherever the wind blows us. With that,
thanks for the invitation, Tucker. Have fun, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. All right, Joseph's out of here. I'm out of here as well. Cheers, and have a great day.